What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Hidden Heights Farm, and today is the beginning of several farm updates or upgrades, I guess you can say. So we've got several things that we're wanting to do, and especially before wintertime. If you guys are farmers or have any kind of animals, you know in the wintertime when the weather gets cold, sometimes those chores ain't so fun to do. So what we're going to try to do today is make our life a lot easier. And this is just the beginning. This is going to be a process. You know, we're going to try to knock things out as we can. You know, Rachel and I, my wife Rachel and I, we both work full time, so we only really get to do projects mainly on the weekends and sometimes a few hours in the evenings. And today, what we're going to be doing is, you might see this backhoe here, this Kubota M59 backhoe, don't have a bucket on it. Well, this bucket right here behind me, this is a new 12-inch bucket. And if you guys have been following the channel for a long time, you know I've been looking for a used bucket to put on this Kubota that was a lot smaller than the one I had on it. So when I bought it, it had a 24-inch bucket. And when you try to dig lines and trenches and stuff like that, a 24-inch bucket up here makes a huge mess because it's so rocky. So I got online, I found this one on eBay, and I cross-referenced the sticker and the model number and all that, and it's supposed to fit this Kubota M59. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I got a bunch of new parts from Kubota, and I'm going to talk about this here in just a minute. Let me walk over here and show you guys. So like I was saying, we had the 24-inch bucket on that Kubota, and it's good for cleaning out ponds and digging up trees and all this and that. Well, so I decided to take it off because it's time to do some upgrades around here. And both the pins on this thing were bent on the very end, and it was all I could do to get a sledgehammer and beat on this thing for hours and hours for like 2 or 3 evenings in a row. And finally I had to have my dad come over, and we finally got one out. But the big pin, it was bent so bad that we had to take a Sawzall, and I think I used about a dozen blades on this thing. And I finally cut it out, and it slid right out. It was just kind of in a bind. I'll show you guys. The pins that they make for these things are a lot softer metal than the bushings that they go into. So they're made to take the wear, rather than the bushings that's built into these buckets. And I'll show you guys the pins here. These are brand new pins from Kubota. This is what they're supposed to look like. They're nice and straight. They roll good. So this is what we are going to do. We're going to be putting these replacement pins in once we get this bucket hooked up to that backhoe arm. And these things they didn't have any grease zerks in them, so I had to pick up some grease zerks, and these things are hollow in the inside. And what you can do is you can get that grease zert in there, put your grease gun on there, and then squirt that in there, and it goes all up in here. And you see this little hole here, the grease goes up in there. I'm going to show you guys. And this is dirty because it's been out and about a little bit, and I haven't had it covered, so I'm going to clean it up before we do it. But this bushing that the pin goes in is spiraled. And what that does, it allows the grease to get all up in there and kind of cut down on the wear. And this one's the same way. You can see there's some like grass or hay in there. I got to get all that out of there first. So anyways, more on the project. So what we are going to try to tackle first is a water line. We got the hog pen way down there. It's like 350 feet or 380 feet. I can't remember. I got a measuring wheel that I walked it off, and I'll show you guys where we're going to be coming from. And digging up here, like I said, is not easy because it is super rocky. As soon as you go a couple inches under the topsoil, you're in pretty good sized rock. So it's going to take a little time. But this is the water line that we're going to be coming off of. This is just a goat stock tank that I have an automatic waterer on all the time. Got a 3/4 inch PEX coming into this faucet here, this hydrant. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to dig down, straight down to the barn, because we're going to eventually do a barn update. We want water there. We're going to put a hydrant over here in the corner somewhere around the barn, and then we're going to take one down to the feeder pigs. So I don't know how much digging I'm going to do today, if I'm going to do any. If I get the bucket on and all that, I'll probably come out here and start digging down here to see what kind of fitting I need. I'm going to be using the 1-inch black poly pipe and brass compression fittings, and they are kind of expensive. They're about 40 bucks a piece here at our local supplier. But I'm definitely going to come off the 3/4 inch PEX onto the 1 inch poly pipe, and then we're just going to take it straight down there. I think it's 120 or 30 feet. We're going to put a hydrant right there by the barn, and then I don't know if we'll do it all in one day or what we're going to do, but once we get that hydrant in, I can either cap it off for now, put a T there and cap one side off, and then maybe on a later day or another day I'll start digging the trench to the hog pen and go ahead and finish it. So let's go get this bucket put on the tractor. I think I've done enough talking for now. I know you guys get tired of that. And we'll try to get that bucket put on, and hopefully, fingers crossed, everything goes good. Alright guys, here are the grease fittings that go into the end of these pins here. And we're going to go ahead and put them in there before we put the pins in the tractor. And sometimes they'll go in pretty easy, and sometimes you got to kind of fight with them, because there are little tiny threads and you don't want to get these pins boogered up. These two pins right here to replace on this Kubota was like $95, and I ordered them from Masics.com online. Our local Kubota dealer did not have them, so it's been like about a week since I had these buckets off. I came out one evening, I said, hey, I'm gonna start digging on that ditch. I came out here, I needed to swap these buckets out, and what happened was I started to take one pin off and it did not budge. So then I was like, okay, this ain't happening tonight. And now, like 10 days later, I got all the parts in, and hopefully this bucket goes on okay. Sometimes it helps to get these things started with some needle nose or something. Just like that. All right. Alright, so hopefully it looked a lot easier on the video than it was in real life. Sometimes them little boogers can just be a hair off and you can't get your bolts in and all that. So one thing you want to make sure of if you are doing something like this, you've seen the bolt holes in these pins, you want to try to line them up as close as possible when you're punching the pins in. Then when you get them close, usually you can get a little screwdriver or something in there and wiggle them around to get your bolt holes lined up. So the life of these articulation points, there's little bushings and stuff in here that these pins slide in. And like I showed you guys earlier, it had the little spirals and stuff. That's for the grease to go in and kind of lubricate the pins, keep the friction down, and that cuts your wear down. So you get a lot more life out of your equipment. So that's what we are going to do. I'm going to go ahead and I went ahead and filled this one up right here with grease. And I'll show you guys something here. See if I can get focused in. Alright, maybe right there. Alright. So these pins were shipped to us dry. They had no grease in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep squirting it until you can see it come out of both sides of this arm. Alright, that should be plenty there. So now that I got the grease in there, so you guys can see that right there, the grease started popping out. It didn't so much on this side. Well, yeah, it did on the bottom. It's hard to see. So that means that that pin is all greased. It's full of grease, all in the little reservoir it has there, the little channel in the middle. And now, once you start moving this and articulating the arms, it will all be greased and lubricated, and it will just flow a lot easier. You know, there won't be any friction against metal. It'll be a lot easier on this equipment. And on these backhoes, guys, like I'm saying, grease is the life of these things. These things have so many grease certs on them. Just everywhere you can grease. Anything that moves pretty much greases. All up there, all on the cylinders. So I'm gonna go in the house, wash some of this grease off my hands, get a cold drink of water, and then we'll go dig a little hole over here by the water hydrant and see what we're dealing with. Alright guys, so I know there's a water line down there already, and the number one thing when you're digging is, if you do not know what is down there, call 811. Here it's call Okie. You can dial 811, I believe it is, and they will actually come out and mark all utility lines and all that, free of charge usually. It's a lot better than losing your life digging into an electrical line that you didn't know that was there, or cutting into some kind of utility, another water line or a fiber optic line, and then having to pay huge fines. That happens all the time. So if you're not sure, just call and have them come mark it. Fortunately, when we bought this land, it was raw. There was no houses here or nothing already. So I know where all the water lines are, where all the electric lines are. And I quit digging. I didn't dig very deep because I know that water line's down there and I don't want to hit it with the bucket or the teeth on the bucket. So I'm gonna go get a shovel and I'm gonna start digging down right there where I know it is and see what fitting I got right there to see what I need to get this water line going. So one thing I did when we put this existing hydrant in, I went and got a lot of pea gravel from down at the creek and filled in this spot right here, because these are frost-free hydrants, and what happens whenever you close this down, all the water that's in here drains out of the bottom there. And putting the gravel in there just helps that little hole from clogging up. And it actually makes it a lot easier when you got to get down here and dig it by hand like I am. Alright guys, so you can see the 3/4 inch PEX that I used. It's that white line down there. And then there's a brass 90 that this hydrant plugs into. Just twists down in there and screws in. So now I know what I gotta have to come off to the 1-inch poly pipe. And here's some of the stuff I'm gonna be dealing with here. You can see most of these rocks ain't too bad, but right here, just below the surface, that thing's about the size of 2 or 3 basketballs. Alright guys, so at least we got a start here on the farm upgrades. We got the bucket on the tractor. We got the hole started. We know what parts we need to get to hook the poly pipe onto the PEX pipe. And I'll show you guys the little route we're going to do. And of course you see this guy right there, like the rock I just talked about. We're going to hit those here and there. So it's going to be a slow process, and I'm not going to get started on it today. I'm not going to start digging the trench today because I don't have the pipe here yet, and it's supposed to rain this week. And up here, whenever it rains after you dug a ditch, usually all the dirt and all the good stuff washes down in the ditch and fills it back up, and then you're left with all the rocks on top. But right here, I don't know if you guys can see that conduit coming out of the side of the shop. Eventually, we're going to dig a trench down this way and come right next to the shop to the barn. We're going to put some electric in the barn, and that is part of this farm update or upgrade, whatever you want to call it. So basically we're going to follow this fence line all the way down, and like I said, the water line's going to be right here, electric line's going to be right next to it. And putting them in the same ditch, you can do that, but I'm not going to do that. It's not the smartest thing to do in case you ever got to dig one up. So basically I'm going to come over here and put a water hydrant right here. That way we'll have it for this field, and we can run a hose or whatever straight to the barn and have water really close. Because in the winter time, when all the goats like to hang out in the barn, it is a pain in the rear to try to stretch out hoses and keep them unfrozen. When it's 20 degrees or whatever, you can't hardly do it. You got to carry buckets, and I've showed that in some of the videos in the past, and it's no fun. It's a lot of work. So this is actually going to save us a lot of time and work in the future. And after we get the hydrant here, like I said, we'll go on down to the hog pen. That should be okay digging. It's going to be rocky, but there's no structures or anything around, so it'll be easier to clean up too. So stick around for these future projects. It'll be I'll just be working on them here and there. I don't know a certain time or anything. I just want to get it done before winter time, but as soon as possible. Maybe this week I'll go pick up some of the material, and we can at least get this water line dug to this fence right here, and then maybe later we'll do the hog pen. But anyways guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. I'm going to start picking some tools up and go rest in the shade or in the house for just a little bit, and then go check on some animals. So anyways, until next time, we will see you later.